All right, let's talk about sponsor surveys. I know, I know. For a lot of nonprofits, they can feel like a chore, right? But what if I told you they could actually be your most powerful tool for growth? Today, we're going to break down how you can turn these simple forms into a strategic engine for way deeper engagement and stronger relationships.
I mean, this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? You think you know what your sponsors want, you hope you're meeting their expectations, but are you really, truly sure? It's in that gap between hoping and knowing that we lose huge opportunities.
Because, when we're just guessing, we risk putting resources in the wrong places. We miss out on chances to connect, and we can even damage that vital bond with the very people who make our work possible. The solution is actually pretty simple. Stop guessing and start asking. But asking in a smart, strategic way, and that's the key we're going to unlock today. Okay, so where do you even begin? Well, the first, and I'd argue the most critical step happens before you even think about writing a single question. You have to start with your why. What is the absolute core purpose of this survey?
Are you trying to get a general vibe check on sponsor satisfaction? Or maybe you've noticed a little dip in engagement and you need to figure out why. Perhaps you want to dig deeper into what really motivates your sponsors, or you just need to know if your impact reports are actually landing the way you want them to. Defining this focus, well, it's the foundation for everything else.
Now, here's a key piece of advice. You have to resist the temptation to ask about everything all at once. A focus survey is a respectful survey. It respects your sponsor's time, and it helps you avoid that dreaded survey fatigue. Just zero in on 3, maybe 4 key areas. Trust me, a short, targeted survey will always give you better data than a long, rambling one.
So, once you've got your why all locked in, it's time to craft the what, the questions themselves. And this is really where the art meets the science. Because how you ask a question completely changes the kind of answer you're going to get back. Now, take a good look at this slide, because the difference here is subtle, but it is so powerful. That question on the left, that's a leading question. By calling the updates wonderful, you're already nudging the sponsor toward a positive answer. You're creating bias. But the neutral question on the right, it just asks for a preference. It opens the door for a truly honest answer, and that's the kind of useful feedback you actually want. And that leads us right to this handy little checklist. Seriously, think of this as your guide to getting it right. Is the question simple? Does it only ask about one thing? I mean, how does it look on a phone? And this is a big one. Have you tested it on your own team first? Following these simple rules makes a world of difference. Okay, so you have your clear goals and your perfectly crafted questions, but that's only half the battle, right? Now we need to talk about delivery. How do you actually get this survey in front of your sponsors at the right time and in the right place to get the best possible response?
So, what's the sweet spot here?
Well, research pretty consistently points to sending out a relationship survey about 4 times a year, basically once a quarter. That's frequent enough to keep a good pulse on how your sponsors are feeling, but it's not so often that it becomes annoying. It just creates a nice, healthy rhythm of communication. And here it is. This is the real payoff. This isn't just about feeling good and collecting feedback. It's about keeping your sponsors engaged for the long haul. A 6-point increase in retention, that is a huge deal. It's solid proof that this kind of communication directly builds loyalty and strengthens your entire program.
Now, as for how you send it, yeah, email is still king. No big surprise there. But you really don't want to overlook other channels. If you have an online sponsor portal, that is a fantastic, seamless way to get a survey out there. And for really quick, one-question pulse checks, SMS can be super effective. The bottom line, go with a multi-channel approach. You'll almost always get better results.
All right, this is where the real work begins. Let's be honest, collecting the data is the easy part. The magic really happens when you transform all those numbers and comments into a real concrete plan for making things better.
So here's a simple but really effective 4-step process. First, just analyze the numbers. Look for the big trends. Next, you got to dive into those written comments by coding them. Basically, just grouping them into themes like communication or impact. This is where you find the story. From there, you build an action plan. And finally, and this is so important, you set goals that you can actually measure. And that brings us to the power of being specific. Improve updates is, well, it's just a vague wish. It's not a goal. But increase photo updates by 20% in the next 6 months, now that is a concrete, measurable target. It creates accountability, and it gives you a super clear way to track your progress and show everyone what you've accomplished.
And this leads us to the final, and I would say most overlooked step in this whole process. You've asked, you've listened, you've made a plan, but you're not done yet. Now you have to tell your sponsors what you're doing. You've got to close the loop.
Using a simple framework like "you asked, we listened" is just incredibly powerful. It immediately tells them their voice was heard and that you're taking their feedback seriously. This isn't just a report, it's a confirmation that they are a valued partner. It turns a simple update into a huge relationship-building moment.
And this is why it is so critical. When your sponsors see that their feedback led to real, actual change, it builds an incredible amount of trust. It transforms them from just a person who gives money into a true partner in your mission. And it pretty much guarantees they'll be excited to give you feedback the next time you ask.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. Managing this whole feedback cycle, from designing and sending to analyzing and following up, can feel like a really heavy lift. And that's where the right technology can be your best friend, automating all the repetitive stuff so your team can focus on what really matters, building those relationships.
And with that technology comes a really critical responsibility: data security. With nearly a third of all nonprofits facing cyber attacks, using a secure, centralized platform to handle sensitive sponsor info isn't just a good idea, it is absolutely essential. So, if you only remember one thing from our time together today, please let it be this. A sponsor survey is not a test. It's a conversation. It's a chance to deepen your connection and to fuel your mission together. And that's really the question I want to leave you with. How will your next survey start a real conversation instead of just being about collecting data? Because when you make that mental shift, when you go from extraction to dialogue, you unlock this incredible, powerful cycle of improvement, transparency, and loyalty.